So just a couple more things we could do with adding some contrast and interest to this side of the image. I'm going to add a little bit of a kind of a sort of flare on this side just to bring up as if, you know, he's kind of looking down at some light potentially. So we were adding this light on his face, which we could even just boost up a tiny bit more. We got to be careful not to make his face look flat, so we can use the highlight version. And then just take a little bit more orange out of there. So red suppress, go there and just kind of desaturate that a little bit. We don't want it to be super red compared to the rest of the image, so I'm just being very careful with how far we push that. But what we could do to help this is sort of add a flare over the image. So I have some stuff down here I'm going to explain later on, so I'm just going to move that down. Yeah, let me just put this sort of like this out of the way for now. So what we're going to do, we just have a merge. I'm going to delete the light wraps for now because we haven't talked about that yet. But so if we have this picture, what we could do is just sort of put a radio and like a grade here, and then put this over the whole image. So we kind of close all this, make the radio big, and then kind of place it here. And what we're going to do is sort of lift the image. So we can just very slightly, though. We don't want to push it that much. And we could also increase the multiply very slightly. I wouldn't, though. If you just do a slight gamma shift up and a slight lift up, and we just kind of put that in the edge of the frame. Just like this, we make it big, kind of just place it. And just make it very subtle. Might be even too much, this. But it just helps us give us the impression that there's sort of a light here. So you can see the difference. We've just lifted the corner of the frame. And that's just tricking your eye to even, you know, going more in this direction, which is where our character is. We want our eye to maybe start here and then kind of end up here. So we want to always try to draw your eye with light. What else could we do? We could brighten this ear a bit, because this is quite bright, his elbow and everything, but this looks kind of dark and it's not that far from that spot. So we need to boost up the ear a little bit as well to kind of paint this, give the impression that this building is kind of casting. So we'll just add a little same technique that we basically just did, and just do that on his ear. So copy the luminance key, and I'll go in there and try to isolate those details. So just slide it around until you get the right spot, something like that. Put the grade node, and we'll boost that up. And we'll also want to take a little purple out, because if we notice, again, that's too much, the brightness, but we can see this is more of a teal, slightly bluish, kind of fluorescent lighting. So we want to kind of push it in that direction very slightly. It's not like this, you know, we're not pushing it super far. We're just pushing it to that little spot there. And make sure that we put a roto there as well, so that it's only affecting his head. So I'm going to put this here, like a small shape, and then feather it across. So we get the impression that this light is hitting on the side of his head. So we can see the buildings there, and now we're getting some more light. We could even add some fake light on this fur if we want to add just a little bit of catching light, which is going to draw your eye to his face. So we can put it here. Maybe we can even extend it up a tiny bit. But this is real light, so it really helps us, you know, has the details already there to be lit up more, basically. I still think we could probably even darken this. And we see that there's a little bit of detail kind of lost here as well. It just feels like a smear on this frame, so we might have to adjust that as well. But you guys can see the level of detail we can get into here, and I don't want to nitpick every detail too much, but I am trying to demonstrate the level of detail you can go into. It's not just a character from a green screen, A over B. I think that's what a lot of people think it is, but there's a lot more to it. So I'm going to roto this and kind of go through. Maybe if his arm passes, we can delete this sort of, so like he goes into shadow, like on this frame. So maybe we could just push it onto his face here. or just kind of push it away for those frames. Just keep it in the background. Obviously, his ear has a hole right now, so we need to fix that. Yeah, I'm not gonna put it on those frames. It kind of feels like it's more in shadow, more front lit on these frames. So maybe here we could use it again, and then keep going through. So here we could definitely use it because the arm has come down, so we can sort of bring that backlight back in. And then the thing's going to cross over, which might mess it up a bit, and that's what it's doing. It is messing it up a little bit. So we could take another rotoshape and just stencil it as that thing crosses. So take another rotoshape and just do a really quick and dirty blur, and just so that we don't get that thing messing up our luminance there. So I'm just kind of removing the effect as this thing comes down. And then we would bring it back on this frame. So we'll keep it there and then just make sure it's only on the face. So we can see that little pop of contrast. And it's going a little high there. We have something going on there, so I'm just going to take another shape and remove it. So, and then I'll just throw that shape away when I'm done. You'll see me do that quite often. Usually, if I have a row shape, I'll just kind of chuck it away if I'm done with it, rather than messing with the opacity when it's done. Usually, I'll just chuck it off, and if I need it again, I'll pull it back in. Yeah, so that's pretty good, and just make sure this is on there. All right, so we've just pinged out his face, and if we just take a look, look at all the light changes here. Whoa, too much on the band. So the band, it looks like our other face shape is adding too much light. So let me, oh, you know what? It could be lit up by this light, but I'm gonna reduce it just a tiny bit. So I'm gonna take another shape on that layer, stencil it, and just sort of make it, I don't know, 50%. So we can use an opacity slider to just reduce it. We could have it a little brighter than it was in the real footage, but we don't want it to be super bright. But it does help. It really does feel like that light is contributing if you play around with this. Yeah, that goes way too bright, so we'll keep this shape on there just to make sure. And then we'll roto that up with it. And then we'll just chuck the shape off at the end. Cool. So that should be good. And we'll just keep, I don't know, it's sort of too bright here as well. It looks like it's brightening his arm. So just want to make sure that we're not doing anything strange there. I think we need to darken that arm in the key, or like a kind of an edge fix there. It looks like we just have too much light on that edge. On the first 3 frames only, I think it is. Because after that, it looks good. Yeah, so it looks like we'll just do a little fix there as well. So we can just double check what's happening. Yeah, it's because of the pole. So we would do an easy edge and maybe put that up with our little fixes here. So I'll just add another one. Put a little grade, darken it, and put it in the right spot. So we can expand that edge, shrink it on the inside so that it only affects just on the corner. And we can take a look at the final result to see if we're taking care of it. And it looks like we're not. So let me go back in and just darken more. And then I'll make that matte a little bit smaller. So let's just see something like that. Too dark though, so we'll just bring it up. And worst case scenario, it's like 3 frames. We could just sort of roto paint that. So I'll just add that real quick. This video is not supposed to be the QC part, but I do want to fix that because it's sort of killing the integration. So I want to just go there with a little clone stamp real quick and just sort of paint that out. Yeah, something like that. And yeah, and I'll go here and just sort of make it a little bit less. So I know I'm going fast, but this is not the point of this specific video. And the edge fixes and everything, if you guys are doing this project yourself, you know, you're not going to follow every single edge fix that I do because you're going to have edges in different places. So it doesn't make sense, you know, for me to explain every edge fix, and I don't think that would be the best way to teach this class. So hopefully people will be happy with that. But you can at least see my process, and then you'll be able to mimic the process if you gather the main points. So go around, just break up that edge a little bit. And I think there's one more frame here. So you can see I'm just doing a really rough job, but you just don't want to see that edge. That's pretty much all we're trying to achieve there. And the one thing we need to do is make sure that we mask that change we did to this area. Otherwise, we're going to darken our whole picture. So we're going to mask it there. Let it load. I think it's not loading. We need to have our reformat. And on frame, looks like 41, I don't need it anymore, so I can just, once it loads, yeah, I can just, let's just disable it. Yeah, we'll disable it on this frame. So I mix it to 0, and then the frame before I mix it to 1. So it'll just disable once that thing starts to come up. And we could just darken that edge a tiny bit as well. So that's good, and we'll go on to another video now and start to explore some more integration stuff. We'll get into some fun stuff with lens flares and just ways to bring this still more into feeling connected. So it feels pretty connected right now. There's a couple areas that are slightly too dark, like that matte fix I didn't do yet. But if we look at all the frames, like if I go back, it still feels relatively connected. And so aside from the little QC stuff with the edges, it's getting there. But we're gonna take it to the next level with some pretty cool tricks below. So yeah, we'll talk about that next.